Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the large window of Earth's orbital command station, watching the stars that had once seemed so welcoming. Now they felt cold and distant, much like the alien species that claimed to be humanity's partners in the Galactic Council. His weathered hands gripped the metal railing as he thought about the report sitting on his desk, a report that would change everything. For 150 years, Earth had been part of the Galactic Council. Humanity had joined with hope and excitement, eager to learn from older civilizations and contribute to the greater good of the galaxy. They had given everything they were asked to give. Human soldiers fought in alien wars, human engineers built alien cities, and human scientists solved problems that had puzzled other species for centuries. Yet Earth remained a junior member with barely any voice in the decisions that shaped galactic policy. Dr. Lisa Park hurried into the Admiral's office, her face pale with worry. She carried a data pad that contained information so shocking it made her hands shake. The xenobiologist had spent years studying alien technology and had always wondered why certain breakthrough inventions seemed familiar. Now she knew why. The aliens had been stealing human ideas and claiming them as their own discoveries. "Admiral, you need to see this," Lisa said, setting the pad on his desk. "I've been comparing patent records from Earth with the so-called alien innovations from the past 50 years. Jake picked up the pad and scrolled through the data. His eyes widened as he saw design after design that matched human inventions, filed years before the aliens announced their breakthroughs. The quantum drive system, the atmospheric processors, even the communication networks that connected Council worlds all bore striking similarities to human technology that had mysteriously disappeared from Earth's databases. "They've been stealing from us," Jake said, his voice hard with anger. "While we shared our knowledge freely, they took credit for our work." Lisa nodded grimly. "It gets worse. I found evidence that they've been deliberately slowing down our technological progress. Every time our scientists get close to a major breakthrough, Council advisors suggest research in different directions. They've been keeping us behind on purpose." The truth hit Jake like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't a junior partner because they were less advanced. They were kept junior so the older species could continue to benefit from human innovation while taking all the credit. The revelation made him sick to his stomach. President William Hayes sat in his office in Geneva, reading the same report with growing fury. Around the conference table sat his most trusted advisors, all trying to process the scope of the Council's betrayal. The room was silent except for the soft hum of air recycling systems. Commander Alex Turner, head of Earth's intelligence operations, spoke first. "The patterns are clear, Mr. President. They've been using us as an idea factory while keeping us politically powerless. Every major Council innovation in the past century traces back to human research." "How is this possible?" asked Defense Secretary Nancy Cole. "Our people work directly with alien scientists. Someone should have noticed. They compartmentalized everything," Lisa explained through the video link from the orbital station. "Human researchers were told their work was part of joint projects, but the aliens took the finished products and filed patents under their own names. Our people never saw the final applications." President Hayes stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. Below him, millions of people went about their daily lives, unaware that their species had been systematically exploited for generations. The weight of the decision he faced pressed down on him like a mountain. "There's more," Alex said, consulting his notes. "The Council just issued new military requirements. They want Earth to provide 80% of the forces for their next expansion campaign. 80% of the soldiers and ships with zero input on strategy or objectives." The room erupted in angry voices. Admiral Morrison's image on the main screen showed his disgust clearly. "They want our people to die for their ambitions while treating us like servants." "Enough," President Hayes said, his voice cutting through the noise. "The question now is what we do about it." The debate that followed was intense. Some advisors argued for working within the system, demanding reforms and better representation. Others wanted to expose the theft publicly and shame the aliens into changing their behavior. But Jake Morrison had a different idea. "We leave," he said simply. Article 47 of the Galactic Charter allows any member to withdraw with proper notice. We invoke it and cut all ties with the Council. "That's madness," protested Foreign Secretary Robert Kim. "We'd be completely isolated. No trade, no technology sharing, no protection from hostile species." Jake smiled grimly. "Protection from whom?" "We provide most of their military strength. And as for technology, we've been giving them ours for free while they gave us nothing. In return, we're better off alone." Dr. Lisa Park spoke up from the orbital station. "There's something else you should know. My research shows that human cognitive patterns are unique in the galaxy. We innovate and adapt faster than any other species. That's why they need us, not the other way around." President Hayes felt the pieces falling into place. Humanity wasn't dependent on the aliens at all. The relationship was completely reversed. Earth provided the innovation, the military might, and the resources that kept the Council functioning. Without human involvement, their entire system would collapse. How long would it take to implement a complete withdrawal? Hayes asked. Alex consulted his files. "Our contingency plan suggests 3 months for full political separation. 6 months to recall all human personnel from Council space. But the real question is whether we can defend ourselves if they try to force us back in." Jake's smile grew wider. "Let me worry about defense. We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. The aliens are in for quite a surprise if they try to coerce us." The meeting continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The evidence was overwhelming, the betrayal was complete, and humanity's patience was exhausted. President Hayes made the decision that would reshape the galaxy. 3 days later, President Hayes stood before the cameras in the Global Assembly Hall. Behind him sat representatives from every nation on Earth, united in their decision. The transmission would reach every Council world simultaneously, broadcast on frequencies that could not be blocked or interrupted. "Citizens of Earth and members of the Galactic Council," Hayes began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of his words. "For 150 years, humanity has served the Council faithfully, believing in the ideals of cooperation and mutual benefit. Today we have learned that our trust was misplaced." He outlined the evidence of systematic theft, political manipulation, and exploitation that had defined humanity's relationship with the Council. His words were calm but devastating, laying bare the scope of alien betrayal in terms that no one could dispute. Therefore, Hayes concluded, "By the authority granted to me by the people of Earth, and in accordance with Article 47 of the Galactic Charter, I hereby announce humanity's complete withdrawal from all Council obligations, effective immediately. Our borders are closed to Council traffic, our personnel are recalled, and our cooperation is terminated." The transmission ended with the simple words that would echo across the galaxy: "Earth stands alone, and Earth stands free." The first alien ship arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly 6 hours after President Hayes finished his announcement. Captain Ben Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the defense platform orbiting Neptune as the sleek Viridian vessel dropped out of hyperspace, its hull gleaming silver against the darkness. Ben had been expecting this moment for 3 days, ever since Earth's withdrawal broadcast reached the Council worlds. His orders were clear and simple. No alien vessels were to enter human space under any circumstances. The captain adjusted his uniform and opened a communication channel to the approaching ship. "Viridian vessel, this is Captain Rodriguez of Earth. Defense, you are entering restricted space. Please reverse course immediately." The response came quickly, filled with confusion and disbelief. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Ambassador Zektar of the Vega system. I must speak with your government immediately. There has been a terrible misunderstanding." Then almost laughed at the word misunderstanding. The aliens still believed they could smooth over 150 years of lies and exploitation with diplomatic words. "Ambassador, Earth's position is clear. All Council vessels are banned from human territory. Please leave immediately or you will be escorted out." "Captain, you don't understand." Zektara's voice rose with panic. The entire council infrastructure is failing. Trade routes are collapsing. Communication networks across 40 systems have gone dark. We need human technical support immediately. That sounds like a council problem, Ambassador. Ben's voice remained calm and professional. You have 60 seconds to begin your departure. The Viridian ship held its position for exactly 59 seconds before slowly turning away. Ben watched it jump back into hyperspace and smiled. The first test of Earth's new independence had passed successfully. Meanwhile, on the orbital command station, Admiral Jake Morrison reviewed reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The scope of the crisis exceeded even his most optimistic predictions. Within hours of Earth's withdrawal, dozens of alien worlds were experiencing critical system failures. Chief Engineer Maria Santos burst into the Admiral's office, her tablet displaying cascading error reports from across Council space. So they're in complete chaos. The quantum communication network is down on 17 worlds. The hyperspace navigation beacons are failing because no one knows how to maintain the human-designed components. Jake studied the reports with satisfaction. For decades, humans had built and maintained the infrastructure that held the Council together. They had trained alien technicians to operate the systems, but had never shared the underlying principles of how everything worked. Now, without human engineers to fix problems and upgrade systems, the entire network was falling apart. What about their military capabilities? Jake asked as Maria consulted another section of her tablet. Their defense grid is showing massive vulnerabilities. The targeting systems use human algorithms, and without constant updates, they're becoming unreliable. 3 Council fleets have already reported weapon malfunctions during routine exercises. Dr. Lisa Park joined them from her laboratory, carrying news that was even more dramatic. The economic situation is worse than we thought. 43% of all Council trade flows through human-operated cargo vessels. Those ships received orders to return to Earth immediately. Trade volume has dropped by half in a single day. The 3 humans stood in silence, absorbing the magnitude of what they were witnessing. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled space for thousands of years, was crumbling because humanity had simply walked away. It was proof of what Jake had suspected for years. Earth wasn't a junior partner in the Council, but its most essential member, Ambassador. Zektar's ship was not the last to approach human space. Over the next week, representatives from dozens of Council worlds attempted to enter the solar system. Each was turned away by Earth's defense forces, which had been quietly upgraded with technology the aliens had never seen. The new human ships were smaller than traditional Council vessels, but far more advanced. They moved with impossible speed and agility, their hulls seeming to bend light around them. When alien sensors tried to scan them, the readings made no sense. It was as if Earth had developed an entirely different approach to space technology. Dr. Nina Walsh, the quantum physicist responsible for many of these innovations, watched the alien ships retreat from her laboratory on Luna for 20 years. She had been working on projects the Council advisors had discouraged. Now she understood why. Her breakthrough discoveries had made Earth technologically superior to any Council species. They kept us from reaching our potential, Nina said to her research team. Every time we made progress, they steered us toward dead ends. They were afraid of what we might become. Her assistant, Dr. Kevin Park, nodded as he reviewed their latest test results. The new propulsion system alone puts us decades ahead of anything in Council space, and that's just the beginning. Nina's work was part of a massive secret program that had been running parallel to Earth's official research efforts. While human scientists shared their discoveries with Council partners, a hidden network of facilities had been developing purely human technology. The program existed because some Earth leaders had always suspected that complete dependence on alien goodwill was dangerous. General Carl Thompson, the mastermind behind these preparations, stood in his underground command center reviewing the results of humanity's first week of independence. Banks of screens showed the deteriorating situation across Council space, while other displays tracked the successful recall of human personnel and equipment. Phase 1 is complete, Carl reported to President Hayes via secure connection. All human civilians have been evacuated from Council worlds. Our military assets are either returned to Earth or in defensive positions around human colonies. What about the aliens' response? Hayes asked. Carl smiled grimly. They're too busy dealing with system failures to organize any coherent reaction. The hegemony of Antares is the only faction talking about military action, but their fleet is experiencing navigation problems. Apparently, they can't plot hyperspace courses without human-made computers. The irony was perfect. The Council had kept humanity in a subordinate position while becoming completely dependent on human capabilities. Now that Earth had withdrawn its support, the aliens were discovering how helpless they had become. Captain Rodriguez received new orders to expand the solar system's defensive perimeter. Earth's new ships took positions around every major approach route, creating an impenetrable barrier. Any alien vessel that came within sensor range was immediately detected and warned away. The psychological impact on Council species was devastating. For the first time in their history, they were being denied access to something they wanted. The mighty galactic civilization that had conquered thousands of worlds could not even approach Earth's outer planets. Reports continued to stream in from across the galaxy. Food shortages were developing on worlds that depended on human agriculture. Manufacturing centers were shutting down without human-designed equipment. Transportation networks were failing as hyperspace routes became unreliable. Most shocking of all, crime and piracy were surging as the Council's law enforcement capabilities collapsed. Human peacekeeping forces had provided security for dozens of systems, and their absence was creating power vacuums that hostile groups were quick to exploit. Ambassador Zektar made 3 more attempts to reach Earth, each time with increasingly desperate offers. Full Council membership for humanity, territorial concessions, even promises to restructure the entire galactic government. Each time, Captain Rodriguez politely but firmly turned him away. The message was clear and simple. Earth had tried cooperation and been betrayed. Now, humanity would go its own way, and the rest of the galaxy would have to learn to survive without them. The age of human submission to alien authority was over forever. 3 months had passed since Earth cut ties with the Galactic Council, and the galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had imagined. Senator Rob Chun stood in the Earth Global Assembly, reading reports that painted a picture of complete galactic chaos. Entire star systems were going dark as power grids failed, trade had collapsed to almost nothing, and billions of alien beings were suffering because their leaders had become too dependent on human innovation. Rob had been one of the strongest supporters of Earth's withdrawal, leading the isolationist faction that wanted humanity to stand completely alone. Now, as he watched the consequences unfold, he felt both vindicated and troubled. He had wanted the aliens to learn respect for humanity, but the scale of their collapse was beyond anything he had predicted. Dr. Nina Walsh received an urgent message. In her lunar laboratory from her monitoring stations scattered throughout human space, her quantum detection arrays had picked up massive energy signatures moving toward the solar system. The readings showed a fleet of hegemony ships approaching at maximum speed, their intentions clearly hostile. Admiral Morrison, we have a situation, Nina said through the communication link to the orbital command station. The hegemony fleet is 2 days out and coming in fast. They're not responding to warning broadcasts. Jake Morrison had been expecting this moment. The hegemony of Antares was the most militaristic member of the Council, and their leaders had been making increasingly aggressive statements about forcing Earth back into compliance. Now they were finally acting on their threats. How many ships? Jake asked, already moving toward the command center. 57 vessels, including their flagship dreadnought, Nina replied. It's their entire third fleet. Jake smiled coldly. The hegemony was about to learn why Earth had been so confident about defending itself. Alert all defense platforms. Activate the new weapon systems. It's time to show these aliens what human engineering can really do. Captain Ben Rodriguez received the alert while patrolling the outer system aboard the newest Earth vessel, the Defiant. The ship was unlike anything that had existed before, built with technology that defied traditional physics. Its hull was composed of materials that could shift between solid and energy states, making it nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. The hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace, exactly where Nina's calculations had predicted. Their massive ships bristled with weapons that had terrified galactic civilizations for centuries. The flagship alone was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Admiral Krell of the hegemony opened a communication channel that reached all human vessels in the area. His voice was full of the arrogance that had defined alien treatment of humanity for generations. Humans, you will stand down immediately and surrender your vessels. Your rebellion against Council authority ends today. Jake Morrison's reply came from the command station, broadcast on all frequencies so every ship in both fleets could hear it. Admiral Krell, you are trespassing in human space? Leave immediately or face the consequences. Krell's laughter echoed across the communication channels. You are outnumbered 50-1, human. Your primitive ships cannot stand against hegemony might. Surrender now, and your punishment will be merciful. 50-1, Jake repeated thoughtfully. You're right about the numbers, Admiral. Unfortunately, for you, numbers don't mean what they used to. The first exchange of fire came when a hegemony destroyer launched missiles at Captain Rodriguez's ship. The Defiant's response was immediate and shocking. Instead of dodging or raising shields, the human vessel simply phased out of normal space. The missiles passed harmlessly through empty air. While the Defiant reappeared behind the destroyer, what happened next changed galactic warfare forever. The Defiant fired a single beam of coherent energy that passed through the destroyer's shields as if they didn't exist. The alien ship's systems shut down instantly, leaving it drifting helplessly in space with all crew members alive, but their vessel completely disabled. Admiral Krell stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. His sensors couldn't explain what they had just witnessed. The human ship had violated several fundamental laws of physics, and its weapon had bypassed technology that should have been impenetrable. Impossible, Krell whispered. Their technology level was confirmed by our intelligence reports. His tactical officer, a young hegemony named Vex, shook his head in confusion. Sir, our intelligence was based on human technology shared through Council channels. This is something completely different. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. 56 hegemony vessels faced 12 human ships, but the outcome was never in doubt. Earth's new technology made conventional weapons obsolete. Human ships moved through space like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will, while their energy weapons shut down alien vessels with surgical precision. General Carl Thompson watched the engagement from his command center, feeling satisfied that decades of secret preparation had paid off. The hidden research program had produced breakthroughs that put humanity centuries ahead of any other species. While aliens had focused on perfecting existing technology, human scientists had explored entirely new approaches to physics and engineering. Phase 2 weapons are performing perfectly, reported Dr. Kevin Park from the weapons testing station. Complete system shutdown with no permanent damage to alien vessels or crew. Carl nodded approvingly. The weapons had been designed specifically to disable rather than destroy. Earth wanted to demonstrate its superiority without committing genocide. The message was clear: humanity could defend itself without becoming the monster the aliens claimed it was. Admiral Krell found himself in command of a dead ship as the Defiant's energy beam washed over his flagship. Every system shut down simultaneously, leaving the massive vessel drifting powerlessly through space. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the bridge as the crew tried to understand what had happened. Damage report, Krell demanded, though he could see the answer on every dark display around him. All systems offline, sir, his engineer reported. But there's no physical damage. It's as if every circuit was simply turned off. The communication system flickered back to life, carrying Admiral Morrison's voice to the paralyzed hegemony fleet. Admiral Krell, your vessels are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. You have 1 hour to abandon ship before we tow your fleet out of human space. This is impossible, Krell said, though he was speaking more to himself than to anyone else. No species has this level of technological advancement. Jake's reply was patient, almost educational. You spent so much time stealing human ideas that you never bothered to understand human potential. We don't just copy existing technology, Admiral. We create entirely new possibilities. The rescue operation that followed was conducted with efficiency. That impressed even the defeated hegemony officers. Human ships arrived within minutes, their crews helping alien personnel evacuate safely. There was no gloating, no cruelty, just professional competence that demonstrated the difference between Earth's approach and the Council's methods, Dr. Lisa Park analyzed the disabled hegemony vessels from her research station, confirming what everyone already knew. The alien ships were sophisticated but built using principles that were thousands of years old. They had reached a technological plateau and stopped innovating, content to refine existing designs rather than explore new concepts. It's like comparing a steam engine to a fusion reactor, Lisa reported to the Science Council. They're not even operating in the same category of physics. Within 6 hours, the entire hegemony fleet was evacuated and their empty ships were pushed out of human space. The defeated aliens were allowed to return home in their rescue vessels, carrying news that would shock the entire galaxy. Earth's technological superiority was absolute, and their military power was beyond anything the Council could match. Senator Rob Chun watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace and felt a mixture of pride and concern. Humanity had proven its strength, but the demonstration would have consequences across the galaxy. The balance of power had shifted permanently, and Earth now stood alone as the dominant force in known space. The age of alien superiority was over, and the universe would never be the same again. Commander Rick Davis piloted his stealth reconnaissance ship through the dark space between star systems, observing the chaos that had consumed the galaxy 6 months after Earth's withdrawal. His mission was to gather intelligence on the deteriorating conditions in Council territory, and what he found was worse than anyone had imagined. The first system Rick visited was Kepler 442, once a thriving trade hub that connected dozens of Council worlds. Now the orbital stations hung dark and empty, their lights extinguished and their docking bays sealed. Cargo ships drifted abandoned in space, their crews long gone and their valuable contents slowly spoiling in the vacuum, Rick's sensors detected. Massive refugee camps on the system's inhabited planets. Millions of beings from failed worlds had gathered here seeking help that would never come. The local government had collapsed under the pressure, unable to provide food or shelter for the endless stream of displaced aliens seeking safety. "Command, this is Davis," Rick reported through his quantum communicator. "Kepler 442 is a complete disaster zone. The infrastructure has failed completely and there's no sign of any organized authority." Admiral Jake Morrison's voice came back, immediately, carrying across the vast distance without delay. "What about military presence?" "Nothing functional," Rick replied, scanning his displays. "I can see 3 Council patrol ships in orbit, but they're not moving. Looks like they've been abandoned too." Rick moved on to the next system on his list, finding similar scenes of collapse everywhere he looked. The great galactic civilization that had once seemed invincible was crumbling into scattered fragments. Without human engineering to maintain their technology and human innovation to solve their problems, the aliens were discovering just how dependent they had become. Dr. Kate Miller sat in her office on Earth, analyzing the psychological reports that were flooding in from across the galaxy. As the leading xenopsychologist, she had been tasked with understanding how different alien species were handling the crisis. The results were both fascinating and disturbing. "The pattern is consistent across all species," Kate reported to the Earth Leadership Council. "They're experiencing what humans would call learned helplessness. For so many generations, they relied on the Council to solve every major problem that they've forgotten how to think independently." President William Hayes reviewed Kate's findings with growing concern. The original plan had been to teach the aliens respect for humanity, not to cause the collapse of galactic civilization. The scale of suffering was becoming impossible to ignore. What about species that were developing before they joined the council? Hayes asked. Kate consulted her notes. That's the most interesting part. Younger species that joined the council recently are adapting better than the older members. The ancient civilizations seem to have completely lost their ability to innovate. The situation became critical when reports reached Earth about the Zephyrian system. Commander Davis had observed the 12 billion inhabitants facing an ecological disaster that would kill them all within weeks. The atmospheric processors that kept their world habitable were failing, and no one in council space knew how to repair the human-designed systems. President Elena Vasquez of the Mars colonies called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. As the head of humanity's largest off-world population, her voice carried significant weight in discussions about Earth's future relationship with the galaxy. We can't just let 12 billion beings die, Elena argued during the video conference. Whatever the council did to us, those people are innocent. Senator Rob Chun, still leading the isolationist faction, disagreed strongly. This is exactly what the aliens want. They create a crisis and then expect us to come running to help them. If we give in now, we'll be right back where we started. The debate that followed was intense and emotional. Earth's leaders were torn between their justified anger at the Council's betrayal and their moral responsibility to prevent genocide. The Zephyrian crisis forced them to confront the true consequences of their isolation policy. Admiral Morrison spoke from the orbital command station, his voice heavy with the weight of command. The Zephyrians never participated in the theft of our technology. Their only crime was trusting the Council to take care of them. We have the ability to save them, and that means we have the responsibility. Dr. Ninian Walsh had been working around the clock to develop a solution to the Zephyrian atmospheric crisis. Her team had designed portable processors that could be deployed quickly to stabilize the planet's air composition. The technology was far beyond anything the Council possessed, but it could save billions of lives. The rescue mission is technically feasible, Nina reported. We can have a relief fleet ready in 72 hours. But once we enter Council space, there's no telling how other alien governments will react. General Carl Thompson reviewed the military implications of any rescue mission. Earth's technological superiority was absolute, but the political consequences of breaking isolation could be enormous. Every Council world would see it as a sign that humanity was willing to resume its old role as the galaxy's problem solver. If we do this, we need to be clear about our terms, Carl advised. No Council involvement, no political negotiations, and no permanent commitments. We go in, fix the problem, and leave. The decision ultimately came down to President Hayes, who had to weigh the strategic interests of humanity against the moral imperative to prevent mass death. The choice would define Earth's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. Commander Davis continued his reconnaissance mission, documenting the collapse of Council authority throughout known space. Minor worlds were declaring independence, trade networks were fragmenting, and several regions were experiencing armed conflicts as local warlords filled the power vacuum left by the Council's weakness. The old order is completely finished, Davis reported. Even if the Council survives, they'll never have the same authority again. Too many worlds have seen that they can function without central control. The most shocking discovery came when Davis observed 3 former Council worlds establishing direct communication with Earth's colonies in neutral space. These planets were bypassing the Council entirely, seeking to negotiate independent relationships. With human settlements, Dr. Kate Miller's analysis of these developments revealed a fascinating trend. Alien species that had been suppressed by the Council's rigid hierarchy were beginning to show signs of renewed creativity and independence. Without the constant pressure to conform to ancient traditions, some worlds were experiencing their first technological breakthroughs in centuries. It's as if the Council's collapse has freed them to think for themselves again, Kate reported. Species that had been stagnant for millennia are suddenly showing innovation. The Zephyrian crisis reached its breaking point when atmospheric readings showed that the planet would become uninhabitable within 10 days. Council rescue efforts had failed completely, and desperate Zephyrian leaders were broadcasting pleas for help across the galaxy. President Hayes made his decision in a closed session with his closest advisors. Earth would launch a humanitarian mission to save the Zephyrians, but under strict conditions that would prevent any return to the old relationship with the Council. "We go in as Earth, not as Council members," Hayes declared. "We work directly with the Zephyrian people, not their government or any Council authority. And we make it clear that this is a one-time intervention, not a resumption of our old role." Captain Linda Foster received orders to prepare for Earth's first mission into Council space since the withdrawal. Her ship would carry the atmospheric processors and the technical team needed to save the Zephyrian world. It would also carry a message that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of humanity's place in the universe. The rescue mission would prove that Earth had not abandoned its moral principles, but it would also demonstrate that humanity's cooperation could no longer be taken for granted. The age of automatic human assistance was over, replaced by selective intervention based on Earth's own values and interests. As Captain Foster's ship prepared for departure, the galaxy watched and waited to see what humanity's next move would be. Captain Linda Foster stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Mercy as it approached the dying world of Zephyria. The planet's once blue atmosphere had turned a sickly yellow, and massive storm systems raged across its surface as the environmental systems continued to fail. 12 billion lives hung in the balance, and Earth had made the decision to save them. The mission had taken careful planning to avoid any appearance of rejoining the Council. Linda's orders were clear: work directly with the Zephyrian people, ignore all Council authority, and make it obvious that this was humanitarian aid from Earth, not political cooperation with alien governments. Dr. Jim Parker, head of the newly formed Human Colonial Development Agency, had volunteered to lead the technical team that would deploy the atmospheric processors. His portable units were marvels of human engineering, capable of stabilizing a planet's air composition in a matter of days, rather than the years it would take using traditional Council technology. "Zephyrian Ground Control, this is Captain Foster of the Earth vessel Mercy," Linda broadcast as her ship entered orbit. "We're here to help with your atmospheric crisis. Please direct us to your Emergency Coordination Center." The response came back immediately, filled with desperate relief. "Captain Foster, this is Director Qual of Zephyrian Emergency Services. We cannot express our gratitude enough. The Council told us no help was coming." Linda's jaw tightened at the mention of the Council. Even in the face of planetary death, the alien bureaucrats were still playing political games instead of focusing on saving lives. "Director Qual, we're not here as Council representatives. This is a direct mission from Earth to the Zephyrian people." The distinction was important, and Linda made sure it was broadcast on all frequencies so every alien government would understand. Earth was not resuming its old role as the Council's problem-solving service. This was selective aid based on human moral principles, not political obligation. Dr. Parker's team worked with incredible efficiency, deploying atmospheric processors at key points around the planet. The human technology was so advanced that Zephyrian scientists could barely understand how it functioned. Within hours of activation, the planet's air began clearing as the processors filtered out toxins and restored proper gas balances. Admiral Sarah Martinez had taken over from Jake Morrison as head of Earth's expanded fleet, and she watched the Zephyrian mission from her command center with mixed feelings. The rescue was a success, but it had already triggered exactly the response Earth's leaders had feared. "Captain Foster, we're receiving communication requests from 47 different alien governments," Sarah reported through the quantum link. "They all want to negotiate direct aid agreements." Linda had expected this development. The Zephyrian rescue was being broadcast across the galaxy, showing that Earth possessed solutions to problems the Council could not handle. Every struggling world wanted access to human assistance, but without having to deal with the corrupt Council bureaucracy. "Relay all requests to President Hayes," Linda replied. "We stick to the mission parameters." The success on Zephyria had consequences that rippled across the galaxy faster than anyone had predicted. Within days, 3 more worlds had declared independence from the Council and requested direct relationships with Earth. The rigid structure that had controlled galactic politics for millennia was fragmenting as individual planets chose human partnership over Council membership. President Elena Vasquez of the Mars colonies found herself at the center of a new diplomatic revolution. Her position as head of humanity's largest off-world settlement made her the natural liaison for planets wanting to work with human communities rather than Earth's central government. It's unprecedented, Elena reported during the weekly Leadership Council meeting. Entire star systems are restructuring their governments to match human colonial models. They see our democratic systems as more fair than the Council's hierarchical approach. Dr. Kate Miller's psychological analysis of these developments revealed something remarkable. Alien species that had been creatively stagnant for centuries were experiencing rapid innovation once they broke free from Council control. The removal of rigid authority structures was allowing them to rediscover their natural problem-solving abilities. They're becoming more like humans in their approach to challenges, Kate explained to the Science Advisory Board. Independent thinking, rapid adaptation, and willingness to try new solutions. The Council wasn't just stealing our innovations, it was suppressing theirs too. The transformation accelerated when the former Council world of Altair established the first independent human-alien partnership. The planet's government signed a mutual aid agreement with Earth that provided technology sharing and defense cooperation without any of the exploitative elements that had characterized the old Council relationship. Senator Rob Chun, still leading Earth's isolationist faction, watched these developments with growing unease. His original vision of complete human independence was being replaced by something more complex, a new galactic order with Earth at its center, but based on voluntary cooperation rather than forced hierarchy. We're becoming the dominant power whether we want to or not, Rob argued during a heated Senate debate. Every decision we make affects billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. President Hayes understood the weight of the responsibility that had fallen on humanity's shoulders. Earth's withdrawal from the Council hadn't led to isolation as planned, but to a fundamental restructuring of galactic civilization. The old system of rigid authority was being replaced by a flexible network of independent worlds, cooperating by choice rather than compulsion. Admiral Martinez oversaw the establishment of Earth's new galactic policy, which would guide humanity's relationships with the emerging independent worlds. The principles were simple: voluntary cooperation, mutual respect, and shared benefits. No world would be forced to adopt human systems, but those that chose partnership would be treated as equals. Dr. Nina Walsh made the breakthrough discovery that explained why the galaxy was transforming so rapidly. Her research revealed that human presence in the old Council had been unconsciously suppressing the innovative potential of other species. Alien civilizations had become dependent not just on human solutions, but on human ways of thinking about problems. Without us constantly providing answers, they're being forced to find their own solutions, Nina explained to the Global Science Council. And they're discovering that they're more capable than they ever realized. The revelation was stunning. Earth's withdrawal hadn't just freed humanity from exploitation, it had liberated the entire galaxy from a system that stifled creativity and independence. The Council's collapse was actually allowing alien species to reach their true potential for the first time in millennia. 5 years after Earth cut ties with the Galactic Council, President Hayes stood before the Global Assembly to deliver his final address on galactic relations. Behind him sat representatives from 43 independent worlds that had chosen partnership with humanity over Council membership. "We sought freedom and found responsibility," Hayes said, his words broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy. "We wanted independence and discovered that true strength comes from lifting others up rather than holding them down." The new galactic order was more prosperous and peaceful than anything that had existed under Council rule. Human colonies spread to dozens of systems, always as partners rather than conquerors. Former Council worlds formed new alliances based on shared values rather than imposed authority. Most remarkably, the constant threat of galactic war had disappeared. The old council's military had been designed to maintain control through fear, but the new network of independent worlds found cooperation more profitable than conflict. Trade flourished, innovation accelerated, and cultural exchange reached levels never seen before. Earth's decision to cut ties with the Galactic Council had indeed caused the universe to panic, but that panic had been the catalyst for positive change that benefited everyone. The age of rigid hierarchy was over, replaced by an era of voluntary cooperation where every world could reach its full potential. Humanity had found its true place in the galaxy not as servants or masters, but as the spark that ignited a renaissance of freedom and creativity across the stars.